This is ASMR to the G, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a while since I've done an English video. My apologies. I was a little bit under the weather for the last couple of weeks due to a little stomach bug, but now everything is back to normal and I am back. I wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone that has subscribed to my channel. You have helped us reach over 100 subscribers. That is absolutely amazing. I am so proud of us. I'm so happy. Please continue to subscribe if you haven't already. It'll help our channel grow. Before I begin our reading of The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which we've been doing for a while now, I wanted to say how many of you saw that Friends reunion. I mean, OMG, oh my god. 17 years waiting for that. 17 years, and it was absolutely worth it. I have to say it was very bittersweet for me. I was absolutely happy and ecstatic to see them all together in the same room, to hear them talk about their experience, how much it meant to all of the fans, to us, like it was just absolutely amazing. So I was very happy in that sense, but then, after an hour and 45 minutes, we had to say goodbye again. So it was like 2004 all over again. Feeling sad. I think I cried from beginning to end. It was like seeing an old group of friends that you hadn't seen in so long, and then they had to go again, right? They had to go away. It was very, very bittersweet for me, but I am so happy they did it. So happy. What else have I been watching lately, guys? I've been obsessed with the show Lucifer. I know it's been on for 5 years. I'm a little bit behind. I only started watching it a couple of weeks ago. I've watched from season 1 to season 5 twice already. The second part of season 5 came out this past Friday, the 28th of May, and I just finished watching it last night. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning binge watching it, and I'm absolutely in love with the show. The characters, the storyline, it is absolutely wonderful. If you haven't watched it, it is so worth watching. So that's how I've been spending my last couple of weeks since I've been sick. I've been binge watching shows, mostly Lucifer and Friends, because I can't get enough of Friends no matter how old it is. And I'm finally back to recording some videos so that I can post for you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin this evening's video. So the last time we left off was we were reading a headline that said, "Mysterious tragedy in Essex, wealthy lady poisoned." There would be pictures of Styles, snapshots of the family leaving the inquest. The village photographer had not been idle. All the things that one had read 100 times, things that happened to other people, not to oneself. And now, in this house, a murder had been committed. In front of us were the detectives in charge of the case. The well-known glib phraseology passed rapidly through my mind in the interval before Poirot opened the proceedings. I think everyone was a little surprised that it should be he and not one of the official detectives who took the initiative. "Mesdames and messieurs," said Poirot, bowing as though he were a celebrity about to deliver a lecture. "I have asked you to come here all together for a certain object. That object, it concerns Mr. Alfred Inglethorpe." Inglethorpe was sitting a little by himself, I think unconsciously. Everyone had drawn his chair slightly away from him, and he gave a faint start as Poirot pronounced his name. Mr. Inglethorpe is resting on this house. The shadow of a murder. Inglethorpe shook his head sadly. My poor wife, he murmured. Poor Emily. It is terrible. I do not think, monsieur, said Poirot pointedly, that you quite realize how terrible it may be for you. And as Inglethorpe did not appear to understand, he added, Mr. Inglethorpe, you are standing in very grave danger. The two detectives fidgeted. I saw the official caution. Anything you say will be used in evidence against you. Actually hovering on Summerhay's lips, Poirot went on. Do you understand now, monsieur? No. What do you mean? I mean, said Poirot deliberately, that you are suspected of poisoning your wife. A little gasp ran around the circle at this plain speaking. Good heavens, cried Inglethorpe, starting up. What a monstrous idea! I poison my dearest Emily. I do not think, Poirot watched him narrowly, that you quite realize the unfavorable nature of your evidence at the inquest, Mr. Inglethorpe. Knowing what I have now told you, do you still refuse to say where you were at 6 o'clock on Monday afternoon? With a groan, Alfred Inglethorpe sank down again and buried his face in his hands. Poirot approached and stood over him. Speak, he cried menacingly. With an effort, Inglethorpe raised his face from his hands. Then, slowly and deliberately, he shook his head. You will not speak. No, I do not believe that anyone could be so monstrous as to accuse me of what you say. Poirot nodded thoughtfully like a man whose mind is made up. Soit, he said, then I must speak for you. Alfred Inglethorpe sprang up again. You, how can you speak? You do not know. He broke off abruptly. Poirot turned to face us. Mesdames et messieurs, I speak. Listen. I, Hercule Poirot, affirm that the man who entered the chemist's shop and purchased strychnine at 6 o'clock on Monday last was not Mr. Inglethorpe, for at 6 o'clock on that day, Mr. Inglethorpe was escorting Mrs. Raikes back to her home from a neighboring farm. I can produce no less than 5 witnesses to swear having seen them together, either at 6 or just after, and as you may know, the Abbey Farm, Mrs. Raikes' home, is at least 2.5 miles distant from the village. There is absolutely no question as to the alibi. Chapter 8. Fresh Suspicions. There was a moment's stupefied silence. Chap, who was the least surprised of any of this, was the first to speak. My word, he cried. You're the goods, and no mistake, Mr. Poirot. here arrested you would have been as sure as eggs and eggs. I was foolish, no doubt, murdered Inglethorpe, but you do not know, Inspector, how I have been persecuted and maligned. And he shot a baleful glance at Evelyn Howard. Now, sir, said Japp, turning briskly to John, I should like to see the lady's bedroom, please. And after that, I'll have a little chat with the servants. Don't you bother about anything. Mr. Poirot here will show me all the way. As they all went out of the room, Poirot turned and made me a sign to follow him upstairs. There he caught me by the arm and drew me aside. Quick, go to the other wing. Stand there, just ahead of the base door. Do not move till I come. Then, turning rapidly, he rejoined the two detectives. I followed his instructions, taking up my position by the base door and wondering what on earth lay behind the request. Why was I to stand in this particular spot? On guard. I looked thoughtfully down the corridor in front of me. An idea struck me. With the exception of Cynthia Murdoch's, everyone's room was in the left wing. Had that anything to do with it? Was I to report who came or went? I stood faithfully at my post. The minutes passed. Nobody came. Nothing happened. It must have been 20 minutes before Poirot rejoined me. You have not stirred? No. I've stuck here like a rock. Nothing's happened. Ah, was he pleased or disappointed? You've seen nothing at all? No. But you have probably heard something. A big bump, eh, mon ami? No. Is it possible? Ah, but I am vexed with myself. I am not usually clumsy. I made but a slight gesture. I know Poirot's gestures with the left hand and over went the table by the bed. He looked so childishly vexed and crestfallen that I hastened to console him. Never mind, old chap. What does it matter? Your triumph downstairs excited you. I can tell you. That was a surprise to us all. There must be more in this affair of Inglethorpe's with Mrs. Raikes than we thought, to make him hold his tongue so persistently. What are you going to do now? Where are the Scotland Yard fellows? Gone down to interview the servants. I showed them all our exhibits. I am disappointed in Japp. He has no method. Hello, I said, looking out of the window. Here's Mr. Bowerstein. I believe you're right about that man, Poirot. I don't like him. He is clever, observed Poirot meditatively. Oh, clever as the devil. I must say I was overjoyed to see him in the plight he was in on Tuesday. You never saw such a spectacle. And I described the doctor's adventure. He looked like a regular scarecrow, plastered with mud from head to toe. You saw him then? Yes, of course. He didn't want to come in. It was just after dinner, but Mr. Inglethorpe insisted. What? Poirot caught me violently by the shoulders. Was Mr. Bowerstein here on Tuesday evening? Here? And you never told me? Why did you not tell me? Why? Why? He appeared to be in an absolute frenzy. My dear Poirot, I expostulated. I never thought it would interest you. I didn't know it was of any importance. Importance? It is of the first importance. So Dr. Bowerstein was here on Tuesday night, the night of the murder. Hastings, you not see? That alters everything. Everything. I have never seen him so upset. Loosening his hold of me, he mechanically straightened a pair of candlesticks, still murmuring to himself. Yes, that alters everything. Everything. Suddenly, he seemed to come to a decision. Allons, he said. We must act at once. Where is Mr. Cavendish? Let me just take a drink of water. Oh my god. A drink of water. I'm trying to do a cupped reading at the same time. John was in the smoking room. Poirot went straight to him. Mr. Cavendish, I have some important impersonated Mr. Inglethorpe on Monday evening. In the same way we have his statement that he put the coffee down in the hall. No one took much notice of that at the inquest, but now it has a very different significance. We must find out who did take that coffee to Mrs. Inglethorpe eventually, or who passed through the hall whilst it was standing there. From your account, there are only two people whom we can positively say did not go near the coffee: Mrs. Cavendish and Mademoiselle Cynthia. Yes, that is so. I felt an inexpressible lightening of the heart. Mary Cavendish could certainly not rest under suspicion. In clearing Alfred Inglethorpe, continued Poirot, I have been obliged to show my hand sooner than I intended. As long as I might be thought to be pursuing him, the criminal would be off his guard. Now he will be doubly careful. Yes, doubly careful. He turned to me abruptly. Tell me, Hastings, you yourself, have you no suspicions of anybody? I hesitated. To tell the truth, an idea, wild and extravagant in itself, had once or twice that morning flashed through my brain. I had rejected it as absurd. Nevertheless, it persisted. You couldn't call it a suspicion, I murmured. He's so utterly foolish. Come now, urged Poirot, encouragingly. Do not fear. Speak your mind. You should always pay attention to your instincts. Well then, I blurted out, it's absurd, but I suspect Miss Howard of not telling all she knows. Miss Howard? Yes, you laugh at me. Not at all. Why should I? I can't help feeling, I continued blunderingly, that we've rather left her out of the possible suspects simply on the strength of her having been away from the place. But after all, she was only 15 miles away. A car would do it in half an hour. Can we say positively that visual.